as we start preparing for staffing for next year. Departmental updates, we are in the process of meeting with our principals related to their staffing levels current, making sure that we have all the allocations and funding sources correct in the system as we prepare for those staffing decisions to happen for the 24-25 school year. That did also come along with displacing positions, not only that we hired through the ESSER process, which have already been sent, but also displacement letters that will be sent the end of this week related to those that were hired under temporary funding, out of class, out of field type of positions where they didn't have the correct licensure, 24-hour posting, long-term substitutes. So there's a total, just over 130 of total displacements, and majority of those positions will be reposted as we move forward for the 24-25 posting year. Benefits update. As we had reported last month, we were in the process of doing all of our reporting and compliance, so that 1095C ACA stuff has been completed. We are still gearing up for the wellness fair, and we have quite a few vendors that have already signed up to be here, so that will be May 8th. Looking forward to that. And then again, pushing at that EAP to all of our staff to ensure that they're aware of the services and that we can have a higher utilization and provide that benefit for all of our employees. You can see right now our certified, as I had mentioned, the bulk of our postings are for the 24-25 school year, and then we are also posting for our summer school positions. And then we still are looking for several paraprofessionals as well as maintenance and transportation for our non-certified staff, and those are current openings that we have. Contract negotiations, the teachers we have a tentative agreement with, and they'll be voting later this week with hopefully that if that vote passes, that will come to our board next week for approval. We are still working with education directors and are waiting for the clerical and the DeWIA group to request negotiation. Those contracts did expire July 1, 2023, and we will be starting up hopefully within the next couple months with the National Conference of Firemen and Oilers, and their contract does not expire till July 1 of this year.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Executive Director Severance? Great. Now we'll move on to business services, and we'll start out with our enrollment report. You can see our current enrollment is around 8,038 students. We see the notice dip after December when we have graduation, so those enrollments look good. And again, I like to remind our public that we had budgeted around 7,900 students, and this year we have continued to be above our budgeted numbers. Anything to add? No, thank you. Great. Do we have any questions on our enrollment report? And I do appreciate these new style of the enrollment report, so that's great. Moving on to our child nutrition departmental report, we continue to see an increase in utilization of our breakfast and our lunches, which is great to see. I believe the lieutenant governor and the governor have been out about in the state serving lunch to our students and talking about, I believe it's somewhere between 2.4, 2.5 million more lunches and breakfasts. I can never say the plural, breakfasts through the year. So that's great to see that our public and our students are having access to healthy, nutritious meals. It's exciting to read about our commodity purchases for the 2024-2025, and we will be utilizing commodity dollars that we get through the Department of Defense to buy our kids fresh fruits and vegetables. Also, so that child nutrition will again spend around $275,000 in fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as ground beef, diced chicken, and other proven favorites, in parentheses, pizza, in quantity and taste. So our budget for next year, for the 2024-2025 school year for this is $372,000. Do we have any questions on commodity? Or on child nutrition, excuse me.
I just have a quick question, maybe quick. It kind of relates to this, and then it relates to our legislative priorities. One of the third one on our list was permanent, advocating for permanent funding streams from the state for school breakfast and lunch for all students. So can you speak to how that may be impacting us now, how it might impact us in the future? Also just kind of bringing up how it's impacted our lunches. We've heard from a lot of our student school board reps over the last year or two just about the quality of the lunches, so I'm just wondering if we're going to see an improvement for our kiddos in that regard.
Thank you. Right now, the funding is set for 2 years for free lunches. We've always done free breakfast here in Duluth, so they're advocating to go past that second year. It has been hugely successful. Our students are being fed during the day, and, you know, I think, I've heard too that they're just more responsive during the day in their classrooms, so it's been very successful. Have you heard the quality needs to get better? Are you saying that?
A little bit, somewhat, maybe
Bit,
quantity
yeah.
a little bit, but I would say, you know, the pros way outweigh the cons. Like,
Yes.
as we know, we had a lot of lunch debt left over from last year, and, you know, now we've had a lot more students taking those the lunches that are free, and so that, what that kind of tells us is that there was a lot of students who were somewhere in the middle that weren't able to get those lunches. So I wasn't trying to be negative at all, just
wanna know.
bringing that up. Yep,
do I
I'm
need to
really thankful for the free lunches, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, they're having the dinner program as well, that has been very successful. And, you know, as far as the meals during the day, there is a second line for additional foods that the students have to pay for. So they're just starting to implement that too now, because in the fall they had not. And that's where the student debt came from. Students were getting their meals, but then they'd go back in line and buy more. And those were the meals that we weren't getting reimbursed for.
And this might be a question for Assistant Superintendent Bonds, but is there, I might be wrong on this, but there might be a rule whereas if I get my lunch and I get my apple, right, and my carrots and my sandwich, and I don't eat my apple, that I can put it over here. I either have to throw it or I can put it somewhere for another student to take it. Do we do that at our schools, where if I'm not going to eat this, set it here?
I can't answer that.
I was gonna say,
I'd
the
have-
answer is, depends on the school,
Okay,
and it has been practiced not to do it because of.
germs
it
and
is
stuff like that.
discouraged.
Sure.
At the same time, you're trying to always be,
Yep.
conservationist and trying to make sure that you don't throw away good food. And so there are some practices where schools try to maintain those things that I, that eat it or. But I would say officially, I think it's something that.
Not an official thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious, and that makes sense as we're trying to protect our kids' health too. It's a balance. Just curious, yeah.
And Simone, can you speak to still the importance of families to still fill out the educational benefits form?
Yes.
It really is truly important. They do.
Still very, very important. It affects our compensatory aid that we get, our Title I, even with our extracurricular activities. So yes, we are offering now free lunches, but we still get our compensatory aid based on our educational benefits form. So we've been having our meetings with our principals, and we're just, they do a great job. I mean, they really do at every site trying to get that done. They go out in packets, you know, back to school packets, and I know our principals work very hard at it. They have tables at the sites and really encourage, but it is highly important, more so than ever, because we don't want families to think, oh, well, I get a free lunch, I don't need to. It's actually more important than ever.
Right, and because of this, we're trying to change any kind of stigma around filling out a free reduced meals application. That's why we are terming now the educational benefits form. So just know that when we talk about free reduced lunch, we're now terming the educational benefits, because we want to reduce any kind of shaming that may come with it or reluctance to do it. But it is really important for all families to complete that application, because our additional funds, title and comp ed, are all based on those counts.
And I would also add to the conversation that our students can go back for fruits and vegetables as much as they want to. So, yeah, so just so if they have their lunch and they're still hungry, they can go back for those fruits and veggies. as opposed to having go and buy a different, or buy more lunch, whatever my words are today. Do we have any other, yes, Henry?
Thank you. That's okay. A quick question regarding the school district and the food bank here. Is there a relationship between the two to help defray some costs, perhaps related to lunches and nutritional?
That's a great question. I'll have to find out for you. I'll speak with our food nutrition manager and I'll ask Sheila. Okay? I'll get an answer for you. Thank you.
And I appreciate you sharing that about the fruits and vegetables. I didn't know that, and it's probably because my kids don't go back for the fruits and vegetables.
Ditto in the Eater household, so yes, great. All right, so do we have any other questions? And there's a great, for our general public, you can look on page 7 and 8 of our agenda, and you can see breakdown by schools and breakfast, lunch for different days to see how our students and our families are utilizing those services. And of additional note here, it is getting to be that time of the year where we are going to be planning for our summer meal program. So we will continue to do that again, where certain sites around our city will have summer meals for our kids that will be free of charge. Anybody 18 and under, I believe it is, isn't it? Don't we have free summer? All students, yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant, is all students have access to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, if I could, I just wanted to say thank you to the broad team of people that was down at the Duluth and St. Louis County days at the Capitol, doing a lot of advocacy related to making sure that we have ongoing funding for the universal meals as well as unemployment insurance and things. But thanks to the team for continuing to advocate for long-term solutions.
Thank you, Superintendent Magus. All right, are we ready to go on to facilities? Any other questions? Great, let's move on to facilities. So for we have our facilities report. I didn't see anything that really stood out in our facility reports. We know that for our building operations, we are still looking for some custodians and some engineering positions at Lowell and Myers-Wilkins and Denfeld and Lincoln Park. Pretty much a ton of our schools, we're still looking for those engineering and custodial positions. And of course, we're going to thank our buildings operations staff for keeping our buildings looking so great throughout this year. We really appreciate that work, and that can't be easy when you think about the size of our schools and the number of students that we have in our schools. I did also want to point out, I'm pretty excited about this. I look at this every morning at the Smith bell and clock as we get our Denfeld clock repaired, so I'm waiting to see the big crane when they come back out and fix our clock. You'll be able to see on page 19 of our agenda under bids, RFP, and quotes, we have bid 1323 for Homecroft parking lot reconstruction. So that is something that we'll be looking as a capital project coming up. And we're still working on getting our Lincoln Park Middle School pool cleaned up and ready to be operational again. Did I miss anything?
There's just a couple things I wanted to mention in relation to this report. You'll see that we had the auction of our surplus items on February 24th, and that did yield about $33,000 for the school district, so that was a success. And then also in the section related to capital construction, there was a bid opening last week for the Homecroft parking lot renovation, and that is actually attached into the agenda a little bit later. That is the item that was added to the agenda.
Yeah, so just of note, again, we did add that bid for the Homecroft parking lot reconstruction. And I just wanted to make note of what you said, Executive Director Severance. You said around $33,000?
Yes.
Perfect, great, thank you. Do we have any questions or anything to bring to the attention for our facilities report?
Just one quick question, please.
Yes, Member Banks.
Can you tell me what a package for the custodians looks like? How much they, what the average starting wage would be? Is that based on experience, or is that an entry-level job for those locations?
Yes, let me just look that up real quick. I can tell you. The engineering positions do require a little bit a certification, a boiler certification, but we also encourage folks to come in as custodial staff, and we'd be willing to provide them the opportunity to go get tested for that certification. And let me just pull up their contract very quickly. The positions, although we will be flexible with even part-time staff, they are all full-time that we would be looking for. And then with a full-time benefit, you do get free single health care as well as dental. And then there is also an HRA, a health reimbursement account that does go along with that free health care for singles. And right now, our custodian wages range between $17.50 an hour and $17.82 an hour. Again, that kind of depends on the level of experience and licensure for that. And then our engineers start at just under $26 an hour.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions? Great. Moving on to our technology departmental report, you can see that we still have a tremendous amount of emails going through our system, a tremendous number of active accounts. This month in technology, we have no E-rate RFP or bids, and there are a couple remaining summer 2023 projects that have to do with the AV system in this boardroom, and then some other integration. We know that CDW and Advanced Systems will be on site the 29th and the 30th of April, hopefully to get this project finished. And again, I just want to bring attention to the tremendous amount of time and energy that we spend on securing our technology in the Duluth Public Schools so that our students are safe and we have integrity within our systems. Anything that happens will then be reflected in an increase in our insurance. And I would also add that as we go forth for our referendum in May, the technology referendum that we're moving forth will help strengthen our technology and also keep us up to date as well. Superintendent Magus, is there anything to add about our referendum in regards to our monthly technology departmental reports you'd like to add?
No, I was actually thinking about reiterating the same, that basically we're trying to do as much as possible for cybersecurity, but we also realize that we don't have the resources that are needed or recommended to make sure that kids are, and staff data as well is completely safe. We're trying to do our best, and people are working really hard, but we definitely could use additional resources to bolster the cybersecurity.
And if I remember correctly, I think we pay over $1 million a year for our cyber insurance, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is a significant amount out of our budget every year.
It is, and really in some ways that covers ransom and other things, but we really, our premise is trying to make sure that we have as much in place as possible to make sure that there aren't cybersecurity breaches. And we appreciate everybody working hard and going through the trainings and such. And yet at the same time, we still quite often end up people in phishing exercises, finding that people are clicking on spoof emails and such.
Thank you, Superintendent Magus. Do we have any questions for the technology departmental report this month? Great. All right. Moving on to our transportation report, I just wanted to, it's that time of the year again where we have students going on field trips. So I just want to, of note is that the transportation department was involved in shepherding our students to 82 different field trips in February. We know it's the time of the year when our Duluth Public School students, our 4th and our 5th graders, go up to Wolf Ridge and all sorts of different exciting learning opportunities for our students. So we thank them for making sure that our students can arrive these places safely and they have access to these extracurricular as part of their education. We know that in transportation, staffing continues to be a challenge. We're short 2 helpers and we're still short on drivers, but we thank Joe for helping us and occasionally sub a report. I know I've been pushing for Superintendent Magus to get that CDL license so he can jump in the bus and drive around town. Maybe that'll be part of his contract negotiations coming up.
There are many things that I'd be willing to do, but I don't think anybody would want me driving a bus.
Driving a bus with our little.
Serve as a bus aid.
Yeah, there you go. And we did, as you will see of note, as part of, I think it's our expenditure contracts this month, you can see where we made the payments on the 2 buses that we bought. I just want to make sure, bring everybody, let me find those here. Where did I see that? Oh, here we go. As part of our expenditure contracts, you can see that we bought 2 used buses from United Bus Sales for around $195,000. And also, we bought 5 vans from Good Guy Motors. So we now have access to more vans to help transport our students. So I know those are have been needed in our transportation department. Do we have any questions on our transportation report? Great. Moving on, here we can see we have resolutions for acceptance of donations to our Duluth Public School. We want to thank Kevin Jacobson for, as part of our Future Forward 709 referendum videos, Story North Productions graciously donated 2 30-second spots and a 60-second spot for the Future Forward referendum. That's going to happen on May 14th, so we thank Kevin and Story North, and of course, we can't leave Annie Harla out of that as well. We have a couple donations from Jane Killu from Head Start to support our Head Start families. We appreciate that. We have a donation from Steve and Laney Liano to Lester Park Elementary School that is going to be spent on items for the Lundell Setting 3 classroom. And Salem Lutheran Church for our Piedmont Elementary students, 4 grocery sacks full of hats, gloves, mittens, 2 sacks of pants, and 1 bag of assorted children's socks. So we really appreciate all of those donations that our community does to support our Duluth Public Schools. You will see that resolution be voted on at the big school board meeting next week. Is that? We, as part of our consent agenda, we have our HR staffing report. Is there anything of note on the staffing report, Executive Director Severance? I thought it looked pretty normal.
Nothing of note.
Great, so we have our HR staffing report that can be found on page 15. When we move on to our finances, I'll let Executive Director Zunich talk about our financial report that can be found on page 17 of your agenda.
Thank you. I'm just bringing to you a revised budget for approval. I've only made 3 changes. 1 to revenue, I've added 1.9 million in sales revenue to our sales, and then I've offset it with expenses down below. So it's not like we're getting 2 million more in revenue. It's being offset. But I think I've mentioned this before, with such a successful program, we're seeing that our sales, but we are getting reimbursed for everything that we are giving to our students. So I just wanted to make that correction. And I made 2 other corrections with contract negotiations and the SPED department. I am anticipating an increase there. So I just wanted to put it into the revised budget to make sure the school board is approved. And I made, to the bottom left, I've shown you how much we've spent in ESSER 3 160 so far, roughly 3.8 million. And then to the far right, this is our extracurricular. I know it's very small print, showing you what our revenue and expense is. And then to the far right, I've included percentages now, so we can see how we're spending that money. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Great, and if you do have any questions, I know Executive Director Zunich will be glad to answer them if you come up later. I want to pay attention to our February fundraising report. Denfeld High School, their Spanish program, fundraised about, $250 from Cold Stone Creamery, and also 33, so they're raising money, our Denfeld Spanish department, so we're glad to see that. Do we have any questions on our fundraising? Excellent. Moving on, we have 1 bid, RFP, and quote this month, and that's for, as we talked about earlier in our facilities department report, that is a bid for Homecroft parking lot reconstruction. Feel free to take a look at that. Is there anything we need to point out in this? Anyone? Nope.
No, the district does have a recommendation to accept the bid and award for the lowest provided bid in this document, but there are several that were submitted, so.
Thank you. Any questions? And that lowest bid looks to be Kaminsky Paving Incorporated as of right now.
Correct.
Perfect. And that's at a price of $411,000.
I just would like to add that at the April COW, we will be presenting a very short presentation on our process of RFPs, bids, and quotes.
Great, that will be great to see. All right, now we're moving on to, we have no contracts, change orders, or leases this month, so we'll go on to some miscellaneous informational items. We have quite a few expenditure contracts. Several of those have to do with our transportation needs. We also have some expenditure contracts for our Black History Month, as we celebrated that throughout the district, and that came from the Office of Education Equity. We also have some special services at Lakeside Presbyterian Nursery School for some students that were providing services for there. Also at Lakewood, this is great, Lakewood Little Lynx Preschool, that's darling. Okay, and then we also have another one at Lester Park for their Spanish Club coordinator. So those are our expenditure contracts this month. Do we have any questions? We have no cost contracts this month. Moving on to our revenue contracts, yay, revenue. We have one from Nordic Auction that Executive Director Zunich, Executive Director Severance spoke about earlier from Nordic Auction, where what'd you say, we just auctioned off some surplus equipment? Surplus equipment for around $33,000, so that's great to see. Any questions on that? And then lastly, in our grant application, where you can find that on page 69, we have some grants for Laura MacArthur Elementary School to support our PBIS in our schools, for little shirts for our little buddies. I love it. We have a Minnesota art grant from Denfeld Music. This will provide music lessons from community artists for our students in band, orchestra, and choir to cover 200 lessons. That's awesome. I got to star that one. That one's great. The Arrowhead Regional Art Consortium, these are all from Rachel Lofeld for Rachel Lofald. Denfeld Music, $5,000 again to cover 100 additional lessons. And then we have another $3,000 grant for Denfeld Science for some GE kits for DNA genetics to be used for our science classes. That's awesome. I love to see that. The Minnesota Start Arts Board through Duluth Preschool and Head Start, around $10,000. As part of our Head Start grant, one of our goals is walking the talk of equity and inclusion. This is a very important goal for these programs, and this will help fund that. This program will work to increase representation of people of color in our classrooms, and for the past 3 years, Duluth Preschool has partnered with local BIPOC artists for a 10-week Artists in the Residency Program, which has been well received by our classroom and families. This is a great, a wonderful grant. It's great to read about, and I encourage our public to take a look at it. Is there anything I'm missing about this program? I don't think so. I think we're good. Do we have any questions? We have such a phenomenal Head Start program. It just makes me so happy to see our little show up to school ready after they've gone through our amazing Head Start program. Do we have any questions? Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day and go enjoy this beautiful day. Holy smokes. Thank you.